So today I'm going to be talking about the theories and models that are the foundation of public relations and communication. So the first thing is that we need to just define what a theory is. So a theory is based on observation, experimentation, or experience, and it's necessary for understanding, organizing, and integrating the activities and purposes of public relations. And what these theories do is that they predict and explain how things happen or why they happen within communication. So there are 4 different categories of theories that are broken down in our study guide. So the first one is transmission or media effects theories, and then we have audience theories, message theories, and then theories that are specific to public relations. So the first category falls under transmission or media effects theories. So these theories just explain how the media can affect how we view things. So the first one is the magic bullet or hypodermic needle theory. And this one was developed after World War I by Harold Lasswell. And this theory states that media messages directly affect human behavior. And so it gets its name from the shooting or injecting of publics with messages that are designed to trigger a response. So that could be seen a lot in advertising of kind of, you watch a commercial for ice cream, and then directly after you watch that commercial for ice cream, you want ice cream. You are kind of injected with the message that you need ice cream. The next one is two-step flow. This one is developed by Paul Lazarsfeld in 1944, and then he refined it in 1955. So this one states that the media messages indirectly affect human behavior. The magic bullet hypodermic needle theory directly affects human behavior, and two-step flow indirectly affects it. So this is done through opinion leaders, and what opinion leaders do is they influence how publics understand and respond to messages. So an example of this would be if you see a lot of information online about a certain type of car, and you know that you have a really good friend who has been encouraging you to buy a car, and he knows a lot about cars, you're more than likely going to follow what he says because you feel like he kind of knows what he's talking about, and he is an opinion leader on the type of car that you should buy. And so that can kind of affect how you view different options when looking for a car. The third one is agenda setting. And this was first demonstrated by Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw during the 1968 presidential election. So what they noticed is that media messages can have a direct effect cognitively on people, but not necessarily behaviorally. So agenda setting is seen a lot in news, and how often news reports are given or repeated, and the theory kind of shows that if a certain story is shown repeatedly, then it'll make it important to people because it's shown a lot, which is why kind of news channels show a lot of the same stuff repeatedly, or if we see an article published 500 different times, we automatically think it's important, even if it's not, just because the agenda has been set of what has been told by us from the media to be important. So the next set are still under the media effects theories category. The first one is framing, or second level agenda setting. So this one kind of goes off of agenda setting of we're kind of being told what to think about and what to think. Framing kind of involves more of spinning a particular person, issue, or topic in a certain light to get you to think a specific thing about it. So one example is, just off the top of my head, is the media kind of frames Kim Kardashian to be this person who, is just there for money and fame and looks. And so we think that about her, but people don't realize that she's involved in a lot of different charities and things like that. So the way that Kim is framed kind of shapes how we view her. The next one is organizational theory of public relations. And this just states that organizations are more likely to give information to their publics than to seek it from their publics. And the flow of information is very one way. There's not much of feedback in this sense from their publics. The next one is cultivation. This theory was discovered by George Gerner, and he discovered this by observing that those who watch a lot of TV or more TV than usual were more fearful of the world and of others. And due to this, he stated that the media can cultivate people's social realities and can distort what people think of the world. So an example of this would be not wanting to go downtown after a certain time because you've been shown through media or TV shows that, if you go outside after a certain time when it's dark outside, then you're going to get mugged, and you don't want to get mugged, even if that may not be the case. So cultivation kind of is cultivating what you see in the media and on TV into your real world. The next category are audience theories. So these are just focusing on people and your publics. So diffusion of innovation describes how people adopt new products or ideas. So there's different categories of how people adopt them in a way. So you have relative advantage, which measures how much better an innovation is over a previous product. Compatibility, and that just describes if the product is compatible with their life and lifestyle. Complexity kind of refers to how difficult it is for adopters to learn how to use the new innovation. Trainability describes how easily potential adopters can explore your innovation, and then observability is are we seeing results or benefit from using this innovation? So those 5 things kind of play into if somebody is going to adopt a new product or idea. And another thing that plays into innovation and adopting of innovation are personality traits. So you have different levels of personality traits that influence how people approach things. So you have your innovators. They're the ones that are usually coming up with this new idea. You have your early adopters. They're the first ones to adopt this new idea. The early majority, they're right behind the early adopters. They kind of adopt it before it is common or cool to do so. And then you have your late majority who adopt things after a while, after it's kind of died down. And then you have your laggards, and they usually adopt stuff after its shining moment is gone and there's already a new product in its place. So the next one is the uses and gratifications, and this just states that people seek out communication media that satisfy their specific needs, and they make media choices based on a goal. So an example of this would be college students prefer to get news through social media networks rather than through traditional mass media, just because we're more likely to be on social media than we are to seek out, reading a newspaper. So the next one is the third person effect, and this was discovered in 1982 by William Davison, and this states that people expect mass media messages to affect others more than themselves. And so this kind of theory follows the fact that it doesn't affect me as much as it affects you, even if it does. And this can occur when a person lacks information about others' opinions and they think others will behave the same way that they do. The next one is the spiral of silence, and this was discovered in 1974 by Elizabeth Newman. And she said that people are constantly monitoring the opinion climate around them, and that because of it, people perceive majority viewpoint, and if they disagree with that majority viewpoint, then they are going to stay silent out of fear of social isolation for going against majority view. And this theory kind of explains the bandwagon effect of why people just kind of go along with stuff even if they don't agree with it, because they don't want to be isolated for going against that majority view. The next one is a situational theory of publics, and this one says that people are more likely to look for information related to a decision that they are making, and they can be publics can be identified and classified in the context to which they are aware of the problem and the extent to which they do something about the problem. So you have 4 different kind of publics in the situational theory of public. So you have your non-public, your latent, your aware, and your active. So your non-public public is going to not really know about an issue, and they're not going to care about the issue or do anything about it. Your latent publics are going to kind of be a little more active, and they're going to recognize the problem, but they're not necessarily going to act on it. Your aware publics are going to know, the issues and act on them, and then your active publics are actually going to seek out issues and then act on them. So it's just different levels of involvement and awareness on certain issues or people or topics. The next theory is social learning theory, and this kind of was spearheaded by Albert Bandura in the, I think it was called the Bobo doll, where he showed children video of people punching this blow-up doll, this clown or something. It was a doll. And they were rewarded for punching it. And over time, the children kind of adopted that behavior, and they also, when they went into the room, they weren't instructed to punch the doll, but they punched the doll because that's what they had been watching and what they saw as being rewarded, and they want those rewards. And so this just kind of says that people learn by watching others, and they learn by kind of seeing people do things and whether those actions get rewarded or not. The next one is social exchange. So this is stating that the cost and reward of a certain action or anything influences group behavior. So it's kind of weighing the pros and the cons to make a decision. So if we have to put a lot of effort into something, but it's going to pay off, we're more likely to do it than we are if we have to put a lot of effort into something and it's not going to pay off. If that's the case, we're probably not going to do whatever the action is or behavior is. The next one is social judgment. This one is developed by Carl Hovland, and it states that people accept or reject messages to the extent that the message corresponds with their beliefs. So if someone gives a message that doesn't align with my beliefs or my values, then I'm probably going to reject it rather than shifting the way that I view things and accepting it. This also kind of goes along with the next one, which is cognitive consistency theories. And these theories just kind of state that when there is inconsistencies between attitudes and actions, people are motivated to change what they think. So kind of tying into cognitive dissonance, if, there is something that we don't agree with, but we kind of shift how we view things because we don't like that feeling of inconsistency or conflict and tension between our beliefs and our attitudes. The next one is attribution theory, and this just kind of when you put something on somebody else in a sense. So it explains events, circumstances, phenomenon that communicators assign causes to events. So this happens a lot like when there's a crisis. People kind of not blame others, but they point the finger at others and kind of try to explain why that happened and what circumstances surrounded the event to allow it to happen. And it kind of gives us peace of mind, and we don't like necessarily when there aren't causes assigned to events. It makes us feel uncomfortable. The next one is identification. This examines how communication helps people identify